Thanks for tuning in. Join me today as I show you the repair and restoration of my Marantz 2270, a receiver that was produced in the early mid-1970s, and it's rated at 70 watts per channel, and boy did I get a surprise on the test bench. 89 over 90. Holy smokes. 90, almost 97 watts a channel at 0.2%. If you enjoy vintage audio equipment, you've come to the right spot. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell, as well as giving me a big thumbs up if you like this video, and share it with others. There is a risk of serious injury or death from electrical shock working on this equipment. If you're not comfortable with working on the equipment, please do not take the cover off and consult a professional. For those of you not aware, I'm a hobbyist, and all of the equipment you see in my videos is my own personal equipment. I don't do this professionally. I don't have people send equipment to me and then I send it out. Every piece you see, I have repaired it, restored it, and then put it into my collection. And the most important thing is for these units to do what? Make music. That's the big thing. So I hope you enjoy the video. I'm going to go through what I did to this unit, and then we get it up on the test bench, and then we make some music with it. Before you get started on any vintage audio repair or restoration, the first thing you need to do is to go to HiFiEngine.com and download the service manual, like I did for this Marantz 2270. And this gives you the information needed to hopefully be successful, to either repair it or restore your 2270. And in this service manual's case, they do explain a little bit about how each circuit works. It's a general explanation. It's not in detail, but they go on to explain the AM tuner, and then they give you suggestions for troubleshooting it. And then they talk about the FM tuner, and they talk about suggestions for repairing that, and so on and so forth. And also, of course, it has all of the schematics for the 2270, and it has all the alignment procedures, and it's just a must-have. Before you do anything else, you download the service manual, and not just for this unit, any unit you're working on. I mean, this would be the same if it were a Pioneer or a Marantz or a Macintosh or Phase Linear, you name it. Download that service manual. You must do that. And you must also, before you start a project like this, you've got to have a decent soldering iron. You know, you just do. I'm not promoting any kind of a brand. You know, in the world we live in now, Google best soldering irons or best deal on soldering irons. You'll find it, all right? And you need some good solder also. Just buying the $4 soldering iron out at the flea market just is not wise. You know, you're going to have to spend a few bucks on it. And also, you're going to have a digital multimeter. In addition to that, you're going to need, you know, basic tools. The other tools most people are probably going to have, you know, needle nose pliers and screwdrivers and that kind of thing. But so many people start off with these projects and just don't have the basic things. And you're going to fail if you do that. So, I mean, you can set yourself up to win or fail, and these are just very basic, simple things. The service manual and the tools you need to be successful on a project like this. So I just wanted to bring that up because I'm thinking some of you guys out there, if you're, you know, you may be thinking of digging in, and a lot of times I see in these videos, and mine too, and other people's, they just go in and they don't really talk about all the other things it takes before you try to work on it. So I just wanted to mention a little bit about that. For those of you who don't know, I'm a hobbyist who also repairs, restores, and collects vintage audio equipment. This Marantz 2270 was, I responded to a Craigslist ad So first thing you want to do with a Marantz 2270 though, is look at the back of the unit and make sure that those pre-out to main in jumpers are installed. And in this unit, they were not. A lot of times people rip these things out of their systems or whatever they're moving. They take everything out of the back, right? They just pull it all. And inevitably, those jumpers are lost. So this unit wasn't going to produce any audio anyway. So I built a little pair of jumpers. I just don't, for me, I don't have to have the factory Marantz ones that are costing what I think is outrageous amounts of money. What do? Just like looking at that. I take the top and the bottom cover off and just take a look. You don't know. All the, maybe jumpers are missing in the back and all the wires are hanging loose in the bottom. You want to find that out before you try to power it up. And this guy now is almost 50 years old. I mean, I just think it's amazing that this stuff has gone 50 years. But that being said, again, if you watch my videos, those electrolytic capacitors that are now approaching 50 years old, they've got to go. Both for sound quality and then maybe even more importantly, the reliability of the unit. Because right at this point, they are ticking time bombs, every single one of them. I'm going to be working on several of the various boards in the 2270, and certainly we're going to be cleaning all of those switches, like in the the loudness and the muting and the speaker switches and the mono stereo button and high-low filter, and of course all the tone controls, volume, balance, etc. with deoxit. In this Marantz 2270, they were soldering wires from board to board back in the early 70s. They really hadn't gotten into that connector thing yet. It wasn't quite point to point like the older units were. And in this unit's case, it made sense to unsolder some of the wires from the assemblies. I didn't do this on all of them, but I did it on some of them. This was not wire wrapped. Later on in the 70s, all the manufacturers got into that wire wrap thing. Or, even better, right, they started using connectors, and that made it much easier. But when this 2270 was produced, it was all solder wire from point A to point B. It goes without saying, take some pictures, right? Take some pictures, or if you want to do it old school, write it down on a piece of paper, or, whatever works for you. But when you start unsoldering a number of wires, when you go back to put it together, you'd like to get it back together correctly. I used mostly Panasonic capacitors in this unit. Sometimes I use Nishinikons or some other brand, but just it doesn't really matter. Use a good name brand capacitor when you're doing your replacements, and buy them from a reputable dealer, DigiKey or Mauser. One of those two. Don't buy them on eBay because they might have been sitting in somebody's garage 10 years. You just don't know. So I went ahead also and changed out the Omron relay. Again, I'm in here. This thing's almost 50 years old. Does it still work? Well, maybe. But I mean, it was worth the $10 to me to change them out. Same with the filter capacitors. I'm going to change these guys out also. They're getting a little harder to come by nowadays, ones that'll fit. And these are 50 years old. And I just can't get over people arguing about that. As you guys know, like there's a link up above here where I talk about the electrolytic capacitors and what the manufacturers say. They gotta go. They just do. And they're almost 50 years old, but people will argue whether they're not leaking, they're not bulging. You can't tell that way. I guess that is one way. If the thing explodes all over the place, I guess it's bad, but they don't all fail that way. So please, if you got 50-year-old electrolytic capacitors, don't try to save a couple dollars and not change them out. It's just plain silly. So, I'm going to work my way through the different assemblies, probably for around $100. even with those two new little, see in this unit it's got fairly small filter capacitors. Those are usually pricey. In this unit they weren't very much. But for under $100, you know, you've got another few decades here of service out of this unit. And what else is it going to do? It's going to sound good. Holy smokes. What other electronics in this world, other than vintage stereo equipment, in the consumer market, can still operate like it did almost 50 years ago? You know, amazing engineering, amazing build quality out of units like this. So, as I said, I just think it's well worth the effort. And, you know, I changed out about 90 capacitors, diodes, transistors, and relays. You know, I mean, most of it consisted of capacitors, electrolytic capacitors. I did change out the vellum paper. You know, that old yellow paper that makes Marantz's glow green instead of blue. And we got to adjust the idle current, set the DC offset. Again, all this stuff's in that service manual that I'm sure you downloaded if you're trying to work on this. And, you know, now it's time to take it to the test bench. You know me. I mean, I'm going to run it on the test bench first. I'm not going to just hook up an oscilloscope to the outputs and say, boy, that looks good. I'm going to hook it up to an audio analyzer that was made to test equipment like this 2270, and we're going to see what it can do. Right now I have a 1000 hertz tone sine wave running from my signal generator into the aux of the Marantz 2270. And we'll see how well the two channels track together. The two channels are tracking quite close together. Here we're running about 31.5 watts per channel. On the left channel about 31.9 or so on the right channel, so that looks pretty good. Here I'm at about 41, a little bit better. Again, the two channels are tracking right together. Here we're over 52 watts a channel, continuous out of both channels, and they're tracking very close to each other, which is good. And let's look at some distortion numbers and see what that's looking like. This Marantz 2270 specs out at 0.3% distortion at any power output, up to its maximum 70 watts per channel rated. This is the left channel, and I'm just running about a watt and a half or so. And as you can see, it's well under 0.1. It's like 0.07. So let's just get my finger down here, and we'll look over at the B at the right channel and see what that looks like. And again, very good, right? 0.08. I mean, that's excellent. That's well below what it's rated at. So let's run up the power a little bit and see what it does. After about a 30-minute warm-up, I'm going to go ahead and run the power up on the 2270, and let's see where she goes and what the distortion's like. I am running both channels in stereo, just to let you know both channels are being driven, even though here you're only going to see one channel, and right now we're on the left channel here, 1.55 watts, and this shows you the distortion, 0.07. So right now it's well below where it should be. So let's I'm going to go ahead and take the volume control here and just turn it up and see where we go. We're about 19 watts, 0.06. I mean, obviously well below what it's rated at. Here I'm 56.5 watts continuous from the left channel. Pretty impressive, right? 0.07. This again is rated at 0.3, not 0.03, 0.3. So I mean, we're 30% under 0.1, so that's pretty impressive. I'm gonna keep moving her up here. Let's see what happens. We're just under its rated, and I've just moved it above. And take a look at that. We're still at 0.07. I'm going to move it up some more. 88. Well, there we go. We're starting 1%. We clipped her. See, we're at 0.1, 0.2. We're still at spec at right around 82 watts per channel, which is pretty darn good, right? It's rated at 70, and it meets its spec at 82. Okay, I'm going to run up the right channel now. We just saw the left channel clips well over its rated wattage and distortion level. So I'm going to run her up here. We're up at a couple watts. I'm just turning the volume as I'm talking here. 22 watts distortion. Again, this is rated at 0.3, so this is way under what it's rated at. We're at 33, 39, 48, 51, about 60, 78. Okay, we're over, obviously it's 70 watts a channel, and look at that, 83. Okay, we're going to try this again, but this time I've put the 2270 in mono, and I'm going to run it with the balance all the way over to the right, and let's see what she'll do with just one channel being driven. I'm kind of interested in this. See what happens, and hopefully we don't blow fuse or get smoke. So here we go. I'm starting to turn her. 6, 25, 47, 63, still the distortion way under, 75, 84, 89, over 90. Holy smokes. 90, almost 97 watts a channel at 0.2%. Holy smokes. Man, that was impressive. The 2270 really surprised me on the test bench. This just shows you how conservative these vintage pieces of equipment are rated at. I mean, incredible. This is a 70 watt per channel rated, you know, that's what they rated at, receiver. At 0.3% distortion. It didn't even touch 0.1 at 70 watts. The only time it got above it was when we got up into the middle 90s. It's just incredible how conservative you know, that they were with the specs in these units. And it wasn't just Marantz, it was other manufacturers too of the time. But I'm telling you, you know, it just feels so good to have restored a unit and then hook it up on the test bench and have it perform like this. There's no reason that this receiver is not going to see 100 years. I mean, I don't see why it can't. It's approaching 50 years old now, and not saying it's never going to need any work or anything, but I'm pretty sure this receiver will be in somebody's stereo in 2070. You know, there's just no reason that it won't be. I hope you enjoyed this Marantz 2270 repair and restoration. Can you believe what this unit just did on the test bench? I can't. I mean, talk about conservative. All the way up to the middle 90s, even a little above, still within its distortion spec. I mean, that is what you call being conservative. And it did it almost 50 years after it was manufactured. Is that crazy? I think it is. You know, so I mean, just amazing piece of engineering. This unit deserves all the accolades that it gets, and I tell you, what's it time for now? I mean, I love testing this stuff. I love working on it, but the music lover in me wants it to make some music. So that's what I'm going to do now, and you know, it's just an amazing piece, and was so well worth the time and effort. So, all you guys out there who are presently my subscribers, I always tell you thanks, because I really do mean it. And you guys out there that are watching that aren't subscribers, and you like this video, and you think, well, I'd like to see some more of them. I'd really appreciate a subscription. And for everybody, I just want to wish you all a Happy New Year. I'm doing this on New Year's Eve. And, you know, I hope 2020 is a great year for y'all. And I'll be doing some more videos. Take care.